We saw that Jesus was taken by Joseph and Mary to the temple in Jerusalem to fulfill the requirements of the law. This happened 40 days after he was born. They met two old people there in the temple, Simeon and Anna, who were both waiting for God to send his Messiah. God revealed to them who Jesus is, and they spoke about him. There's then a gap of 12 years, and apart from those words that the child grew and became strong, filled with wisdom, and the favour of God was upon him, apart from those words, we read nothing more about the lad Jesus until he was 12 years old. We'll now read Luke chapter 2, verses 41 to 52. Now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover, and when he was 12 years old, they went up according to custom. And when the feast was ended, as they were returning, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem. His parents did not know it, but supposing him to be in the group, they went a day's journey. But then they began to search for him among their relatives and acquaintances. And when they did not find him, they returned to Jerusalem searching for him. After 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were amazed at his understanding and answers. And when his parents saw him, they were astonished. And his mother said to him, "Son, why have you treated us so? Behold, your father and I have been searching for you in great distress." And he said to them, "Why were you looking for me? Did you not know that I must be in my father's house?" And they did not understand the saying that he spoke to them. And he went down with them and came to Nazareth, and was submissive to them. And his mother treasured up all these things in her heart. And Jesus increased in wisdom and in stature and in favour with God and man. Joseph and Mary wanted to do what God said, so they visited his temple in Jerusalem every year at the time of the Feast of the Passover. The Feast of the Passover was an annual celebration of the time when their forefathers had been liberated from slavery in Egypt. After the time of celebration, they began returning home. And Jesus was not with Joseph and Mary, so they supposed that he was with others who were part of their group, and they travelled for a day. But when they went to look for him, he was not there. Had he left Jerusalem with any of the others? No, he hadn't been with any of them. So Joseph and Mary were extremely worried. They hurried back to Jerusalem and searched for him. Now, it doesn't seem to have occurred to them to look in the temple to start with, but they do get there in the end, and they were astonished to see him there. He was sitting with the teachers, talking to them, asking sensible questions, and giving answers himself. What he said amazed those who were listening. Mary was very irritated, and she showed it. Her question to Jesus was essentially a rebuke. Now, if this had been any other boy, I'm sure that his parents would have been fully justified in being extremely cross with the child. But it should have been different with Jesus. It should have been different with Jesus because Mary and Joseph knew who he is. They knew from what was said about him by Gabriel, by God in dreams, by the shepherds, by Simeon and Anna. They knew from his life with them. They knew that he's God come to this world as a person, a human being. Mary should have known that Jesus staying there in the temple was perfectly right, even if she didn't understand it. She should have known this, accepted it, and in fact learned from what he did. Mary and Joseph knew who he was, and it seems to me that that makes the rebuke wrong. Also, it seems clear from Jesus' remark that really they should have known more. They should have known why he stayed. Mary had said, "Your father and I, Your father, meaning Joseph, but the Lord had to gently correct that. No, God was his father. He was in his father's house. Had Mary and Joseph reflected sufficiently on him, who he was, his role and responsibilities? Had they talked to him about these things, knowing who he really was? It seems to me that they hadn't done so. It seems that they'd neglected this. My understanding is that Jewish boys were considered as adults when they reached the age of 13, and during the year before, it was the father's job to teach the lad, instruct him on his privileges and responsibilities. So 12 itself was a significant age. Doing his real father's work was a necessity, and perhaps this year was particularly significant. That time they were searching must have been 3 days of worry and great concern for Joseph and Mary, but it was an unnecessary time. Most graciously then, the Lord Jesus returned with them to Nazareth and was subject to them. Mary, though, remembered it all and kept it in her heart. Again, we can see her thinking on what she was told and heard, probably regretting the words that she'd spoken, and watching that perfect young man as he grew up. Here's something for us to think about. Do we, like Joseph and Mary, waste time and effort because we do not understand the Lord Jesus Christ as well as we should do?